the Chiefs have a new receiver. They have acquired Rashee Rice in a trade-up with the Detroit Lions. Matthew, what do you think? Like, the Chiefs are very clearly they're very intentional about making sure they get this guy. We said, a vertical stretch guy is something that we could kind of see them doing. This is a guy that's been a ball winner down the field. He's not necessarily a blazer or anything like that. From a group construction perspective, I know you talked a little bit about replacing MVS, but what do we think he gives them immediately?
Do you really want to start with me?
Yeah.
Not a lot. I don't think he's reliable. I don't think he's a consistent player. His drop rate is really, really high. He makes contested catches through the roof, but his drop rate is really, really high. He's a guy that's trying to posterize defensive backs at 6'1", 205 pounds, right? That's been his game so far, and those are guys that the Chiefs have struggled to have success with. So there's a role. He can be a red zone weapon. He can be a guy that goes and stacks CBs down the field and you throw contested balls to. There's very clear things that he does do well. It's just not as something the Chiefs have had any success doing since Patrick Mahomes has taken over. Now, you could argue they haven't had a great wide receiver at this since a Dwayne Bowe type.
Right.
And maybe that's his ultimate ceiling is a Dwayne Bowe type. A guy that doesn't create a ton of separation. A guy that has to win with a cornerback draped on his back at all times, but will give you awesome circus catches along the sideline. And then we'll drop a ball right in his breadbasket with plenty of yards to run after the catch. So maybe that is the upside. And I actually can see Andy Reid like Dwayne Bowe. I can see the connection there. And maybe this is a comp that I've talked myself into that if it goes this path, that's the upside you're looking at is a Dwayne Bowe type player out of Rashee Rice. And that's the good for me.
Okay, I'm looking at this. You brought up the red zone. I think that's a great place to start with Rashee Rice because what we saw last year is the Chiefs were hyper-focused on their horizontal stretch guys in the red zone. They needed a McCole Hardman in the red zone. They needed a Kadarius Toney in the red zone because they would get down there and they would stall out a little bit. They would get to the point where they'd be at the 5-yard line, and if those two guys weren't available and they were hurt, McCole Hardman's now a New York Jet, Kadarius Toney, who knows how long he's going to be healthy. Now, all of a sudden, you had Sky Moore down there in that scenario. Didn't really work out in the way that they wanted to in some of those gadgety type roles. And you're hoping he is going to play more of the Juju Smith-Schuster role. You need a guy that you can go to there along the goal line. Rashee Rice makes sense for that scenario. You're telling me that you are adding this to try and replace some of that, inside the 10-yard line, the goal-to-go scenarios. That's where he's at his best. Go up, get the jump ball, throw that back shoulder fade that nobody likes. That is a low percentage throw. But he can go up, has the ability to stack a cornerback, shield a guy, and score in that scenario. That's where he wins. That from the roster construction this year, that's where I could see it coming into play here because we look at a guy like Jody Fortson as the guy that they rely on in those scenarios. Now you're adding another guy there, and you're not having to rely on your horizontal stretch inside the 10 to get the ball into the end zone every single time.
Yeah, and like I said, that's clearly a path, right? That's clearly an avenue that you can go to is using him as a red zone weapon as an actual wide receiver.
Yeah.
How many times did we see wide receivers get targets in the red zone for the Chiefs last year?
Well, but how many got? Well,
no, in the red zone.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Often.
It didn't happen. Yeah. And Rashee Rice gives you a very clear path to do that. He gives you a guy that plays big at the catch point for third downs to go make plays. There are things he's going to do well that will fit into this offense. And if you think that contested catches in college at a non-Power 5 level translate to the NFL, he's very good prospect. If you think there's a good translation, a good correlation between how he won in college and he'll be able to do that in the NFL, that's a very good pick for where it is. It's just we've seen year in and year out guys of that skill set coming even from higher levels of competition struggle to make that transition. Is he one that bucks the trend? Guys have done it too. There have been players that have had success bucking that trend that have a similar skill set to him. Is he going to be one of the guys that does that or not?
Yeah, that's the big question. The Chiefs had Rashee Rice in for a top 30 visit. So this is one of their top 30 visits. I'm trying to think if we had confirmation. I don't know if Felix Anudike-Uzomah was technically a top 30 visit, but they had a lot of exposure to him through the draft
local
process.
Pro day, combine visit, and
yes.
I believe there was a third visit in there that he mentioned he had a third visit.
So maybe they did have a top 30 visit with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. But Rashee Rice did come in for a top 30 visit. A late happy birthday to Rashee Rice. He turned 23 April 22nd. So he is less than a week into his year 23. He's going to be a 23-year-old rookie receiver.
One of my favorite part about the trade?
Yeah.
The compensation has come out from our guy, Joseph Hefner's chart. according to the Rich Hill chart, which is just my favorite to look at this stuff
Yes.
because it's just based on real results, the Chiefs actually came out ahead by a late 7th round pick.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Now, if you look at some of the other analytically driven charts, they gave up late 5th to early 6th in excess. So a little bit of difference. I like the trade. I like getting the 194 pick back. I don't have any issue getting rid of that late. So it's like, I really like the trade. The trade up is a great play. I would have taken Jalen Hyatt.
I think I would have taken Jalen Hyatt too, personally, but they believe in him. I mean, like the thing I appreciate is like, look, this staff had a lot of success last year. They've had 2 outstanding drafts, and they have a lot of conviction about making sure they're going up and getting this receiver.
It's due for this one after last year.
Yeah, and they prefer Rashee Rice and his ability, to go up and get the football, to make some of these circus catches. They prefer him to a Cedric Tillman. And if they're looking, it seems like they are definitely looking to build the basketball team, as you'll hear a lot of teams say.
Yeah.
Like with your receiver position, the physical profiles are all over the place typically. The skill sets are kind of all over the place because not every guy's going to have all these translatable skill sets. You can't have every single trait that a dominant trait in one single receiver just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about building pieces of the puzzle together. Making this wide receiver room make sense with various different pieces that all fit together and have a specific role. This is a specific role that they did not have and have not had in a long time. We talk all the time about Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't want to throw contested catches. He doesn't want to throw that sort of stuff. Again, man, he hadn't had that guy. Dwayne Bowe was the last guy that was any good at contested catches and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I do think that they are banking on, hey, Patrick wants this sort of wide receiver. He feels comfortable throwing a little bit more contested catches. I can see it making sense. I do think it's interesting. Rashee Rice, also a team captain.
Yeah.
In that very young room, a little bit older prospect, only 23. Not like he's ancient or anything like that, but a little bit older prospect there. They're bringing in another, mature guy into the room, another individual that can be in that room. If to your point, they're taking over from MBS, looking to move on from that guy in the future here and have Rashee Rice take over. This is probably a guy, good, high character, can help lead the room a little bit, and you can get him in, maybe in year 2 a little bit, and have him be the sort of individual that can run it.
Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Appreciate everybody that's hanging out with us. We'll look at some of the production here from Rashee Rice because he had an uber productive final season for SMU. 96 catches, 1,355 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He's a guy that put the ball in the paint a lot for SMU. I mean, you talked a little bit earlier about the red zone production.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that the Chiefs feel like they just need to get more out of. Just a guy that's able to put the ball in the paint. And with this physical profile, I think those are some of the things that you kind of point to as, some of the positives about what you're looking and what you're getting at here with Rashee Rice.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. You get yourself a red zone threat. You get yourself a guy that does a lot of stuff. And the highlights are a ton of fun. You're going to see a guy that's going to make.
Look at him tracking the ball like that.
Yeah.
You're going to make so many plays in the red zone. You're going to make so many plays at the catch point. I mean, you are having a guy that's going to put out the best highlight package you can get. And that's not in question. It's just a matter of how much is it going to translate, rep by rep. And that's where the questions are. But to Kent's point, they don't have a guy that's going to win in the same way Rashee Rice does right now.
No.
Even though he's similar to MVS and how he plays or where his role is probably going to be, they win differently. MVS is a build-up speed guy that's just going to run by you. Rashee Rice isn't necessarily slow, but he doesn't predicate his entire game about build-up speed.
Correct.
He's just fighting for position so that he can make that contested catch, so he can outplay a cornerback at the catch point rather than just try to run by him.
Yeah, it makes some sense. And again, Juju Smith-Schuster's role last year, if we expect that Sky Moore is that guy, this makes a lot of sense in this scenario. Now you've got that guy that can win in the intermediate roles. You've got a guy that can win in the paint. Rashee Rice can stack guys along the boundary. Even coming from the standpoint of you can have him running some curl routes at the sticks and having him shield a corner.
Yeah.
Another third down guy that isn't going to get big separation, but maybe can get you 9 when you need 8. And another option there on those gotta have it downs. That's a bigger body that can win in those sorts of roles. I can see it.
I wonder if, and one thing I kind of wonder when you're looking at him is maybe he didn't do it at SMU, but there's more things that they think he can do at the next level. He can operate and be tough in the middle of the field and make those tough catches. in tight areas, against contact, in traffic. If they believe there's a little bit more of that to him in those areas of the field you talk about in the intermediate, if that's a place they just have strong conviction that he can win in, then that might be some place that they want to try to utilize him a little bit more. Rashee Rice, his relative athletic score, which is one of the testing numbers we pay a ton of attention to, his athletic testing score was a 9.53 out of 10.
That's good.
That's quite good. He had an elite 10-yard split. He had an elite 20-yard split, and he ran a 4.51 at 6'1", 204.
Yeah.
He had an elite vertical jump. He had an elite broad jump.
Yep.
His shuttle and his 3-cone were,
fine.
Were fine.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about the athletic, some of the toe injury. He had a toe injury during his final season at SMU.
Still put up
1,355
yards and 10 touchdowns.
Didn't miss time. So you got a high football character guy, loves football, didn't miss any time, has a great athletic profile. I mean, this might be like they're projecting even farther out than just what we saw on tape at SMU.
It's certainly possible. I mean, the athletic profile is better than I think he looked on tape, and you wonder how much of the toe injury played into that. I hope that was the case. I tried to go back and watch the previous year before the toe injury, and I thought on tape it looked the same. He's really smooth. I think he moves very smoothly.
Yeah.
That explosive testing really caught me off guard, actually, because I don't think he moves explosive on film, but he's smooth. He's fluid in and out of his breaks, so he gets in and out of them relatively fast. It just doesn't always translate directly to separation. And like I said, the explosive numbers took me by surprise. So you see those to go along with the smoothness and the catch point ability. Yeah, maybe you do think that there's a little bit more that he can do that he didn't show at SMU. You're thinking with better coaching at the NFL level instead of at SMU, there is going to be more there. It seems like similar to round one, seems like another big swing. It seems like less of a safe pick again and more of a big swing to me, which is just an interesting turn compared to the past couple drafts they've had.
Absolutely. They have valued consistency in the previous two drafts. That has been kind of the name of the game. Come up here, have a very high floor, play with consistency. Now all of a sudden, they're swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't hate the approach. If that's what this draft is going to be, hey, we're going to go after these guys. We're going to bet on our coaching to be better than everybody else's. We're going to bet on our facilities, our athletic department, our front office, everybody to just be better than everything else, which they kind of are. I mean, let's be fair here. They kind of are better than everybody else's. We're going to bet on our guys to get the most out of this. We're going to start taking these swings because we already have the floor. We already have the foundation in the hopes. If you get a hit out of Felix, if you get a hit out of Rashee Rice, it's a massive swing. And that hit now all of a sudden becomes a potential really high-end player versus maybe the hits, the super big hits in previous drafts are just, good, really good players, but not elite or great players.
So maybe that means the Chiefs feel pretty good about the depth and the overall state of their roster. I mean, that's what Brett Veach gets up there and tells us before every draft.
It is.
And the way they're drafting right now says that's the case.
It does.
Mean, they're drafting two guys that don't have to play right away and maybe be better served not playing right away as they do try to develop and show more than what they were able to just technically speaking and can like on a reliability or a consistent page than they did in the past. So maybe they are feeling more comfortable what they currently have. They want to take bigger swings and try to hit home runs rather than just take the safe doubles and guys that come in and play right away.
The Chiefs traded up. They have a lot of conviction and belief in Rashee Rice. And one of the things you hear Andy Reid say all the time is we're going to exploit this guy's strengths. I think there's some strengths that the Chiefs obviously believe in. There are some abilities there, winning at the catch point, ball production in the end zone. I think there's a lot of things to work with for Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and they clearly feel the same way because they wanted to make sure that they were getting that guy. Rashee Rice is the 55th pick in the NFL draft to the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you're staying here on KC Sports Network. We will be breaking down every single pick on this night and every single pick for the 2023 NFL draft of the Chiefs. Thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate your support.